From the land of sky blue waters, welcome to the Sota Pod. Isha back here, and I thank all of you for joining us wherever and whenever you are listening. Look, we have a special guest throughout this podcast episode, and that's what this episode is going to be. It's going to be the full hour of our guest interview. Before we get to the interview, I do want to run over some housekeeping notes. We have Darren from the Fourth Line Voice podcast joining us. So it won't be necessarily a topical NHL news, a topical Minnesota Wild based podcast episode as we're going back. We're going back a decade or two talking about the glory years, the enforcer years of hockey, as well as some of the baddest, brutalest, most brutal and fun fight leagues still kicking it today. Some stories from the underground and minors, and a little history on the LNAH as well. Before we get into all of that, though, I do want to say thank you to those who continue to help grow our YouTube channel. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers, so if you haven't already, go check us out, the Sota Pod on YouTube. I think we're like 30, 40 away from hitting 1,000, so really appreciate you guys there. And every week, every Wednesday on YouTube, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, you got Judd's Buds Live. If you guys want to be part of the show, get your comments in live. Don't forget to get your comments in early as well, as the stream link for the video will be up Monday night, Tuesday, now moving forward. So if you guys want to get some questions in ahead of time, you can do so. We post daily clips, highlights, custom beer content, and more on the channel, so go check it out today. Also, I want to give a shout out to our friends at 7th Avenue Pizza, ladies and gentlemen. It was freaking National Pizza Day over the weekend, and I know you all celebrated with a 7th Avenue Pizza. Deals everywhere, $2 off at my local Hy-Vee. I know Kowalski always has deals to get them for $7.99. Buy one, get one at other locations too. I should really contact Matt so he can let me know which ones and where have deals this month. But you can also follow Matt and the gang at 7th Avenue Pizza as well, at 7th Avenue Pizza on social media, 7th Ave Pizza. They are totally interactive. Let them know where you found their pizzas. Let them know where they can get into. And whenever you munch on the best damn frozen pizza in the world, don't forget to snap a photo, share it to social media. You know, the good people there at 7th Avenue Pizza will share it and interact. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Northland Vodka, our friends at Northland Vodka. I mean, it was a fun Sunday hanging out, watching a defensive Super Bowl game, but an exciting Super Bowl game towards the end. I mean, whenever you go to overtime in the most important game of the year in the NFL, you know we're buzzing. And I was buzzing off the Northland Vodka. Big shout out to Northland Vodka, a local company. Small percentage of every sale goes back into the community, goes back into local hockey with the purchase of every single bottle. Again, we love supporting local. We love working with those local companies, and Northland Vodka is the best damn vodka on the planet, and some of the best people over there as well. If Northland Vodka isn't located at your local liquor store, ask them why not, and let's try to get it on their shelves. Get you some Northland Vodka today. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, I know some of you were using this last night. I know you were, because I was seeing some of your matchups. I was seeing some of your bets. That's right, Better Edge. Legal sports betting in the great state of Minnesota. It's a free platform with legal betting in this state as well as 44 others. Challenge your friends head to head. Join our Minnesota Wild Game Day Pick'ems, where you're free to choose 7 out of 10 options. Winner take all, $5 entry. And these are anything and everything from money line, player point totals, etc. Also, if you're really digging the platform and you want to get the most out of it, you can become a premium player, ladies and gentlemen. As a premium player for Better Edge, more details on that at betteredge.com/premium. But before you even go and check that out, go to betteredge.com/SotaPod. That's right, betteredge.com/SotaPod to claim your $20 sign up bonus today. That's right, betteredge.com/SotaPod. All right, guys, without further ado, from the Fourth Line Voice podcast, the OG fight podcast out there. It's a pleasure always catching up with my friend Darren, returning guest no less from the early days. Let's bring him on here on the Sota Pod. Today we have one of my favorite content creators in the world of hockey, keeping old-time hockey alive. He has the best and largest catalog of fights, hockey fights that is, on YouTube. He's the host of the Fourth Line Voice podcast, Mr. Darren, aka Southpaw on Twitter. Welcome back to the show, sir. It's been a while. How you doing?
Hey, it has been a while. No, thank you very much for having me on, man. I appreciate it. And look at that. We've been yapping for like, I don't know how long. And then you went right into radio voice. That was pretty impressive. Right in front of me. Right.
I was just going to say, we literally have been like talking for like, what, an hour and a half or so. Then it's like, oh, shit, we actually have to like do this podcast here because it's almost dinner time.
Mm-hmm. But no, it's good to be back. Oh, well, man. And the only reason the Fourth Line Voice exists on the Hockey Podcast Network is because of you. And I've always said, I've always appreciated that. And for all that, for getting me going.
I appreciate it, man. Hey, when Dylan and I were starting the thing, I remember you were one of our big gets. I remember you were like the biggest show we got at the time. And then we fucking spent a whole year trying to get Terry Ryan on, but that's a story for another day.
Old Ted Hitchcock, he's cruising now, but it was some trying times for a bit there. Yeah.
Oh, I remember. I remember. Yeah, no, shout out to TR there. No, it's an absolute pleasure to both catch up like we did, sir, and to bring you back on the show. And I mean, your podcast still humming. Some might say better than ever. I'm surely in that camp. What have been some of your highlights of 2023 as far as episodes and guests you brought on?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Well, like we were kind of talking off air, the show's sort of kind of changed a little bit. Like when I first started this thing 5 or 6 years ago, it was interview, player, right? Always get the fighters on. That was like my whole, chasing guys around. And then it just got tiresome. I got frustrated with it, and it really wasn't that much. And I started to find I had a lot more fun just interviewing fellow fight fans. And it was a lot easier to get them on. They're much more, I don't know, appreciative is the right word, but it was just an easier talk, and I was having more fun doing that. So the show's kind of gone away a little bit from player interviews and more fight fans to kind of solo episodes, come down here and stare out the window and yell at about the dumb shits online, and and that's always been easy content because you have content forever with you if you just raged about social media, but no. Well, I'm going around my elbow to get to my wrist here. To make a long story longer, actually, in 2023, you know what has been really fun for me? I don't know. Actually, I guess it was 2022 it started, but it's gone into 2023. Was Ice Wars.
Yes.
The hockey fight tournament. Because, of course, I can remember the original one back in 2004 in Prince George, and I never thought...
CN Center, baby.
Exactly, and I never thought... Fourth Line Voice on YouTube if you want to watch that event. It's on my channel. Black and Blue Enforcer Tournament. And I never thought in 2022, with the state of hockey fights and everything, that all of a sudden we were going to have a hockey fight tournament again. So I got on board, fully invested in that, and AJ Galante, from the Danbury Trashers fame, was the one that got it going, and I got to know AJ over the last couple of years and had him on, and we talked. I was just talking to him the other day, and so that's been fun. And of course, the first two events were in Edmonton, so I was there live to see him. And but in the meantime, I had really promoted their event. I had a lot of the competitors on, which was fun for me because it was a new thing, and but a lot of these guys, like there was a couple ex-players obviously that were involved in terms of fighters, but there was a couple air quote unknown guys, right?
Yeah.
And to have them on the podcast, and they were just excited to be on a podcast. They couldn't believe they're one guy's a farmer and the other guy's like a teacher's assistant and whatever, and they're gonna go fight in this Ice Wars thing, and no one really knows what it is, right? But they're excited to be on the show, and I was excited to have them and promote them, and in my own little, obviously I don't know how many people are listening, but got a little bit of a buzz anyway. And then to go there in Edmonton and see the event live, and the feedback I got from people, and it was really cool because people come out, I listened to your show and I've listened to it for a while and appreciate it, and just the appreciation, and like I've always said with the show, right? It was always about showcasing the fighter. The show isn't about me. No one's tuning in to listen to me. They're tuning in to listen to and it's to prop up the player. or in this case, the participant in this tournament. And so if I could help in any way do that, that was the cool thing for me. And so to have people come up and say they appreciate the show and they enjoy it, and was really cool. And so going into that, they've had 3 events, hopefully a 4th one coming up here right away. And rumor is in March, so hopefully we'll see. And and of course I have my friend Jay and Alec on, and we do the preview show, and then we do the review show, and then we yell about spreads.ca, and we're betting on it because you can bet on Ice Wars, and made a few bucks doing that too. But so it's just been, that part's been probably the most gratifying. That's been the most fun, and that really kind of rekindled kind of my passion for the enforcing and although I guess it's not really hockey in terms of that, but just for the hockey fighting and stuff. Because, the NHL, your audience might not know, but I have a hockey podcast, but I haven't watched hockey in like 15 years. So it's kind of, so you can tell what I'm yelling about. I'm yelling about stuff that probably most of your listeners weren't born when I was watching it. So I talk about the old stuff that people are forgetting about, I guess. That's kind of what I do, but the Ice Wars, and and I will say though, in all honesty though, there has been a little bit, I don't want to say a rebirth because it's not, but there is some spark in the East Coast League, some young guys out there that have caught my attention, some guys in the American League, and so it's I can always support and get behind what this next generation, what the young kids are doing. So at least a couple of them are trying to keep it alive anyway.
No, I love that. And we'll get to the AHL and East Coast League here in a bit, but just quick summarization for those who don't know what Ice Wars is. I definitely talk about it on the podcast whenever there was an event and whenever there's news surrounding it. But just a quick summary. What is Ice Wars for my listeners who are just like tuned into the National Hockey League?
Yeah, well, basically, it's just it's 2 guys. It's they put them on. The Ice Wars event was actually on synthetic ice because it was inside a casino. But yeah, it's inside in a they call it the ice box, and it's 2 guys wearing MMA gloves, like on skates, full hockey gear, but no visors, obviously, just helmets, but hockey gear and MMA gloves, and they fight for 2 minutes. 1 minute rounds, and which I'm sure for MMA fans, everything, 2 minutes, big deal. How many 2-minute hockey fights have you ever seen?
Exactly.
Not many. So, because you're pulling and tugging and everything else. So, but and then that's what it is. And then they've had a middleweight tournament and a heavyweight tournament, and so I mean, you got guys that are fighting 3 times in a night. If the guys that are winning it. So. And it's been interesting to say the least. But you got some people don't like it because it's like, I've never heard of these guys. Well, I mean, would you think you were gonna get Ryan Reeves in this thing? Like, no. But I mean, so there's a few old minor league guys in it, and some up and coming guys, and some guys that maybe played some senior hockey that are the toughest guys in their local senior league that want to give it a shot. But
box lacrosse guys, I saw.
Yeah,
and they're the toughest motherfuckers in Canada. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, and actually the one kid he was actually a boxer, but he grew up playing some hockey, so he could stand on his skates and everything else. But I mean, you talk about a guy that can punch. I mean, yeah, and take a punch. So he just had he wasn't in the tournament. It would have been interesting if he was in the tournament. He just had a single fight in the Ice Wars too, but Blake Anderson. But but there was some, if you go back and watch the events, there was some great fights. Like, I don't know these guys. Whatever. I mean, I didn't know a couple of the guys at the parking lot that fought at the bar either, but you know what? It was a hell of a street fight. So, same thing. I don't know who these guys were, but they put on a hell of a show. So, all right. But it was cool to get, from my perspective, like getting to know the guys and hearing their story on the show, and then meeting them in Edmonton in person, and then just going carny and selling their merch online and stuff. And I love that shit. I'm all about minor league carny shit and stuff. When the NHL does carny third jersey shit, it bugs the shit out of me. But when a minor league does it, I'm totally behind it because they need the money, and that's what these guys are doing. I got a whole bunch of Ice Wars merch behind me, buying guys different shirts and hats, and because why not, right? Support the boys, and So I kind of dig it, and it's kind of underground in a lot of ways, and you'll get the hockey purist shit. Well, that's not hockey. No, it isn't hockey. It wasn't billed as hockey. It happens to be wearing ice hockey equipment, but it's not. It's not a hockey game. It's not like they're out there with sticks and then they drop their sticks. It's like, well, no. It's just a different combat sport. Really, that's all it is. It's all it is. And I completely understand why. Like, I've had friends that are just like, oh, seriously, and I mean, I get it, but at the same time, shit. There's enough goofy stuff in the world. Why not? So
no, and I can empathize because like we were talking off air too, how like I'm a big combat sports guy, but the UFC is far from my favorite promotion because though it is the NHL of mixed martial arts. Rising in Japan with their soccer kicks, with their stomps, with their knees to grounded opponents. I mean, it's more violent, but it's more of just a crazy entertaining show. And sometimes, sometimes we need a little bit of that. But my last question on Ice Wars is, you said there's going to be another event, which is awesome because I wasn't sure what was going on with them because they left Fight TV, the Triller Fight TV streaming service that shows even a lot of like MMA fights and boxing and stuff like that, and they went up on some other platform. What's going on there? Because I see other similar promotions like Ice Wars out in Russia that have more like King of the Streets, Street Beefs vibes. It seems like a little bit more violent over there, but like. So there are other promotions popping up, which kind of scared me. I was like, oh man, does this mean Ice Wars is going down? They left this platform just to keep my peace of mind. Do you know why they left Fight TV?
I do.
And what their plans are?
Well, Charlie Nama and AJ were the two guys that got it going, and they were together for Ice Wars 1 and 2, which were in Edmonton and were on Fight TV. Fight TV? Yeah, it was on there, and you could bet on it and on all that stuff. Charlie and AJ had a split.
Oh, okay.
So AJ pulled out, and that's why Daniel Amesbury left with AJ, and he wasn't in the third one. And a bunch of the fighters left because they were loyal to AJ. I don't know what it was about. None of my business. I don't know. I still talk to both guys. Whatever. I'm still going to support whatever they're doing. But Charlie went on, and he got the name Ice Wars and held the third event in Wyoming. And that's why it wasn't on Fight TV. It was on... whatever
honestly, I don't even know it off the top of my head. It was some random new streaming service that I was.
Yeah, it was the one that's owned by what's her name, Carrie or the singer. Really? Podcast One, but whatever their streaming thing is, whatever. That's what it was on anyway.
Okay.
I will say though, to correct you, the pay-per-views were all just $20. All three of them were $20. But it was down in Wyoming. Probably a little. It wasn't. I don't think as put together as well as the first two. But whatever. The fights were still good. There's just some bad blood between the two camps. But Charlie has gone on and said he's actually going to make an announcement here either this week or next week about Ice Wars 4. Which there's been talk again, whatever. I've heard it might be in Florida and stuff coming up in the next month or two, hopefully. But at the same time, AJ Galante and Daniel Amesbury have a podcast now called Talking Trash, and it's been out about 9 or 10 episodes. Well, AJ announced that they're going to start up another fight tournament, and it's called Major League Hockey Fights. And he hasn't announced when a date's going to happen or whatever, but him and Amesbury are kind of working on it, and they're working on getting some, like, air quote, name guys and stuff, and so that'll be interesting. So we're going to see. There could be a Major League Hockey Fights and Ice Wars competing against each other, so we'll see.
Hey,
but
more options for these guys to go and compete is not a bad thing.
No, exactly. And I mean, and I like Charlie. I've never had a problem with the Ice Wars guys, and Charlie's always been good with me. Like I said, they've given me access, and I had a media pass there, and I didn't pay for shit. It was great. So, and they were really open with their time, and so it was cool. I get some of the things, and I guess it's always easy to armchair quarterback or sit on the sideline. Well, I wouldn't have done that. Well, yeah, it's not your money either, right? So, so it's we'll see what happens. I just, for the sake of just being a fan, I just hope it continues. But like I said, I hope the guys get paid and can continue to do it. And I think what the problem has become is when you take this long between, again, you lose momentum, right? Exactly. I think when you had Ice Wars 2 and you had Ice Wars 1 and 2 were kind of pretty close in succession. You kind of had that momentum going. They were on Barstool doing a promo there, and they were kind of around making some noise, and people were kind of talking about it, and it was on the internet, and people were kind of... Now, again, I don't think they were rivaling UFC for pay-per-view numbers or anything.
No, but MMA accounts on Twitter, like Kaposa, who he just tweets highlights from all different promotions, he was posting about it too, and I was like, damn, okay, yeah, like if Kaposa is posting about it, it's got momentum.
Exactly. So, and you had AJ coming right off that Trashers documentary. Yep. So I think he was like, you had momentum, right? And but that's kind of been lost now. So hopefully they can get it back and get it going again. I'm interested to see what AJ does, because obviously he's proven that, he's definitely, and he knows how to play the social media game.
He's a promoter too in boxing, so like he knows
exactly. Yeah, and he's, well, let's be honest, he's got the money behind him, right? Yeah. So we'll see. I hope there's two things going on. I hope we have like a whole, UFC versus one thing going on, but in Ice Wars world, that's fine by me, because I think it's it's more content, and just I'm a fan of it all, right? So I just want to see the guys get paid and have a place to fight. So
hey, I'm on the same page there, brother. Okay, so you already said it. You don't watch modern hockey, and I know this very well. I mean, other than the LNAH and the ECHL, which we will get to here in a bit. But I was running the numbers this year, and I was telling you this when we were going back and forth on Twitter. Fighting is it's up around 40% this year in the National Hockey League. Really? Just again, from an outside perspective, why do you think that is, especially since it's been in heavy decline since the glory days?
I would say it's up from nothing to next to nothing. That's
a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, I kind of looked at it. I mean, you still got 12 teams in single-digit fight totals. So it's they fight lots now. Oh, they don't though. And it's kind of the same guys doing all the fighting for one team. Although maybe that's probably always was the case even back in the day, now that I'm thinking about it. But you just had two or three guys doing it maybe. But I don't know. Well, I think now the only thing I can really come up with, again, not that I'm watching it, but I do see the fights and stuff. So I'm not going to act like I'm completely in the dark here. Like, I do know Seattle has a team now. I'm not that far removed from it. I couldn't name you I probably couldn't name you a single player on their roster, but I've probably seen a Seattle guy fight a time or two. I think what happened back in the day, you had enforcers, designated fighters, and they did the fighting. Whereas I think now you don't have that anymore. So I think it's become much more of a collective. Because now, I mean, the big thing now, and it's always, there's always a fight after a big hit. Everyone cries about that. You can't even hit anymore, and you got to fight even after a clean hit. Well, statistically, that's not true, but that's the narrative that they're going to go with. So, okay. Because, I was watching that game, and Trouba hit that guy, and he ended up having to fight. Well, that was one game. There was 7 other games that night. There was no fights. I'm sure there was probably a hit or two in the other 7 games. So, no, you don't really have to fight after a hit. But okay, we're going to go with the theory that you have to fight after a hit. Well, I think back in the day, hits led to fights too. The thing was, though, it was the guy that got hit. The guys on the ice wouldn't go after the guy right away. They would let the tough guy go do it. Whereas now, there is no tough guy designated guy anymore. So now it's like, oh shit, I'm out here. I guess I got to do it. So I think you got... Like, if you look at a team that's got, like, Minnesota, I think, leads the league in fights.
Yeah.
Well, there's probably, 7 guys with 2 each? And maybe Foligno with 5 or something, or Maroon with 5? It's probably more what it's happening. Like, it's much more spread out. Like, you look at the roster, probably, like, every guy's got 1, right? Whereas back in the day with Philadelphia, you had Dave Brown with 20, Berube with 18, Tocchet with 17, and then a couple guys with, 1. Whereas now I think it's more spread out. Like, everybody kind of fights now and again. So the numbers will increase that way. I don't think the quality of the fights are really there, but you have... it's much more of a group team toughness kind of... Yeah, team toughness. There's the phrase that they like to use. I think that's much more maybe what's going on now than it used to be.
Right.
Oh, well, that's the thing. I mean, and I'm not trying to. I've never knocked the athletes. These athletes now are the guys that play now are tremendous. For all the listeners out there right now, I'm not the old guy yelling at the clouds. Back in the day, I mean, they're nowhere near as tough as it used to be. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue that. But the skill that these kids have is unbelievable. Like, far and beyond. Like, the stuff that they can do. The athletes of today are amazing. They're machines. Having said that, no one's scared anymore. Who's scary in the NHL? Seriously.
No, I know.
If I'm playing Minnesota, who am I scared of?
Yeah,
no one.
Foligno, kind of.
Nah, not really.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing, though. If he come up here, let's go. No. Okay. He's not going to jump you because that would be against the code. Well, and he can't start punching you. He'll get suspended. So all you have to do is say no. Whereas back in the day, let's go. No. Well, motherfucker, we're fighting. So I'm dropping my shit and I'm going to kick your ass. It's up to you whether you want to or not, but I'm doing it. And then they would. And they might get an extra 2 minutes or a 10-minute misconduct and that's it. No one was getting suspended. Shit, now you'll get 10 games, if you start jumping guys. That didn't happen back then. So there was much more accountability back then and there was consequences back then. Now, when you played Minnesota back in the day and you looked over and saw Derek Boogaard standing there, yeah, well, that got your attention. Now you're scared. Because the thing is they'd let Boogie loose every once in a while. And then that's not good. So I can keep saying no. Okay, that's fine. Keep saying no. But Boogaard, the thing I loved about Derek was he would run everyone.
Yep.
He didn't care. It wasn't like, I can only hit fourth line guys. Oh, no. I remember against the Canucks, he'd run the Sedin sisters there constantly. And then he'd go by the bench staring at Vancouver and it'd be like, do something about it. He was your classic bully. And it's exactly, which is completely lost on today's fan or today's play. They don't understand that now, right? Because, like I said, so no one's going to skate by your bench. Well, no one's scary anymore. So it's like, it's a consequence-free hockey. So I think you get that. I think guys aren't afraid to fight anymore. Whereas back in the day, if I'm acting up against Minnesota, Boogaard's coming.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm not going to do it.
They're having nightmares thinking about the boogeyman, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And McIntyre and McGrattan and all those guys. And like you go further back, right, with Matt Johnson and all those guys and Probert and Twist and them. They weren't taking no for an answer. And you were getting it. And if your tough guy said no, but yet he continued to run around, it's like, okay, well, guess what? Brett Hall's getting it then.
Yeah. Because
you don't want to do it. Kelly Chase, people, go look up the Kelly Chase. It's on a YouTube clip. And Chase talks about that exact situation with Darian Hatcher. Hatcher was running around but wouldn't fight. Okay. Well, he told Tony Twist, go start something in the corner so the refs and everybody go over there, and I'm going to grab Benoit Hogue, who doesn't fight. But it's like Kelly Chase grabbed him, and he's like, sorry, dude. And he ended up breaking Hogue's jaw. Well, he didn't get suspended for it. He got an extra 2 minutes for it. And you know what? And he looked at Hatcher. It's because of you.
Yep.
That's why he got his jaw broken. So Hogue can go get mad at you. Because if you had just fought me, it would have been fine. You didn't, and you kept running my guys. So, going and running someone tough doesn't matter because they're used to it. No, that's when you start picking on the star player. And then you go and tell them, hey, if you want me to leave you alone, you tell that clown on your team to stop running my guys. And we can just get to playing hockey out here. But if he's going to keep it up, I'm going to come back here, and the next time I'm going to just grab you and beat the shit out of you. So you tell him, you figure out what you want to happen here. And then he'd go back to the bench, he'd tell his guy, hey, knock it off, and then everything's quiet, and we just play hockey. But every once in a while, you had to send a message. And you can't, and that's the thing, you can't send messages anymore. Now, some people listening might think that's a good thing. Okay. I don't think it is. But because I think now, how many concussions has Crosby had? Your star players. How many? They just get run constantly now. Well, because there's no consequence anymore. No one's scared. So, I don't know.
No, the biggest takeaway from that was accountability in the game is
there isn't any.
There isn't any anymore, for sure. And the storylines and narratives, and I like Kevin Bieksa says, the game within the game. Like there's not that anymore, right?
No.
Every game back in the day used to have its own storyline.
Yep.
And that was so unique to hockey in an 82 game or 78 game schedule back in the day, right? There was a storyline with every game, whereas today Like I watched the game with my co-host Hoppy, and it was Nashville, Minnesota. And the game wasn't a boring game. Like you said, the athletes are amazing. There's some nice goals. There was even a fight, but it was bland. And I find that that's, for me anyways, as someone who's, again, I'm a savage as well. I like fighting, let's be honest. But I like those storylines too. And then this transitions to MMA and other combat sports. When a fight is promoted properly, there's that extra storyline to it. When you're just watching, when you're just going through the motions, it's not as entertaining, and especially that accountability is lost, and that's why we see all these crazy injuries. That, and these guys are flying friggin' 80 kilometers an hour out there, which is crazy.
That's what I've said. So you've taken out center ice. You can't obstruct anybody anymore. Your defense partner can't hold a guy up. So you've sped it up and you've taken away the consequence. And then these guys get hurt and you don't know why. Oh, really? Really? You don't know why? Okay. But like I said, well, that's the thing now. There's no characters anymore.
Yeah.
And they've taken and I don't care what anybody says, and red ice sells.
Yeah.
I don't care. You could act as progressive as you want. Violence sells. I don't care what anybody says. And you talk about, what are the most talked about games? The revenge games. The Battle of Alberta, when Tkachuk and Cassian had that thing going a few years ago. Remember they had the big return match the other one with when Panarin jumped on Wilson there and Wilson flipped him over, and then what did the Rangers go and do? Well, they go and sign Ryan Reeves in the offseason. That first game of the season was against Washington. Ryan Reeves against Tom Wilson. You know, everybody was talking about it. What was the score?
Who cares?
I don't know. Exactly.
Yeah.
But everybody remembers that game, right? And everybody, why? Because of Reeves and Wilson. You know, it's like, conflict sells, and it always will. And that's what, that's the one thing I've always said about hockey. I've never seen a sport that gets in its own way as much as hockey does. They don't get it. It's the Michigans and all that. Those are really cool and stuff. But pond hockey doesn't sell. Mm-hmm. Emotion sells.
Yeah.
Emotion. And why does everybody, best part of the season, the playoffs. Playoffs. Well, you have fun people. They won't even watch the regular season. I just watch the playoffs.
No,
well, like I said,
my dad, too, he's one of the biggest sports fans out there. Yeah, and mind you, hockey's not in his top 3, but he is watching the NHL playoffs because of that. Yeah,
and it's like, I always said with hockey's the only sport out of the major sports that I know that come playoff time, the game changes.
Yep.
In football, the playoffs are the same. They look the same as a regular season game. NBA, baseball, it's all the same. Hockey, what happens? Guys that don't usually hit all of a sudden hit. Austin Matthews might actually go into a corner in a playoff game. He's not going in the regular season. On and on. Like, you'll have guys getting involved that don't usually in the regular season won't, but in the playoffs, it's that hockey tough, right? These guys, you'll see Mitch Marner block a shot. You'll see these guys do shit that they don't normally do because it's for the cup, and it's just. I'm not saying you got to go out and fight, but it's just they'll hit. There's emotion, and guys are mad, and they're aggressive, and shit's happening, right? And there's tension. Well, that's why everybody loves the playoff, and that's why. And it's like, if they could somehow harness that into the regular season, you would have something. Not manufactured rivalries. They can go on, rivalry night. It's 2 teams that play each other once a year. There's no rivalry, right? But actual hatred, if will sell. And it's like, and people can feel it. And it's emotion that sells. They don't. A 3-2 game with emotion is better than a 10-8 game with nothing.
For sure. And especially in this Minnesota market, we had Wes Walls on the podcast, I think it was like 2 years ago now, but he still hates the Vancouver Canucks players on that team.
Yeah.
Right. And people in Minnesota is like, they don't really have a rival here. Like maybe Chicago, maybe the Avs, it's tough here. Like Minnesota hasn't been in the playoffs for past the first round in a while. So it's kind of tough, but a lot of the old timers anyway, still go back to that. There's like, Vancouver will still kind of be a rival. Why? Because of that fucking playoff series. Yeah. Right. So and it's a nail on the head there.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? And there's not, in today's player, like everybody's bros now. And it's like shit, even after fights, they're bum tapping and bro hugging. It's like, really? Like why? Like why is everyone nice now? Why do I have to like you? Why am I liking you? You're on the other team. I don't know. Now, again, I'm not saying, oh, stab him or stomp him when he's on the ice, but I mean, holy shit. Like, I saw a fight the other night. These two guys drop the gloves. They're going at it. The one guy kind of tags the guy, and the guy goes down on his knee. It wasn't like, oh, he's face down, let's call the, but whatever. Oh, the guy stays around. Oh, you okay, buddy? Like, what do you do? Who gives a shit? Like, check on him after. Like, what? Really? Like, why don't you help him up, too, and maybe... like, we're going to send him some milk and cookies in the penalty box? Like, who gives a shit if he's okay? Was he not just trying to do that to you?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying, oh, let's do a 12-6 elbow on the guy when he's on his knee, but I mean, come on, it's a hockey fight. Like, I don't remember Bob Probert ever asking anybody if they're okay after the fight's done. Like, oh, I'll help you up here, buddy, and let's bro hug after. Like, oh my God, like, why? That makes fighting look completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing more ridiculous than the mic'd up shit and George Laraque saying good luck. Do you know how stupid that made fighting look?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, you're not even mad at him? Well, then what are you fighting for? I mean, I get it. I mean, I just liked it because it was the combat and whatever. I don't give a shit. Let's just see fights. But in the actuality, if you, like, that gave fuel for every I can't even defend that. How can I defend that? And it's just like, it's just embarrassing. And it's just like this bro hug and these people that love to yell about the code or whatever that is. Some made up horse shit that they think is real, I guess. And the thing is now this generation of players completely bought into it. You hear them talk about it all the time. It's like, what code? Like, apparently Tony Twist and Probert and Rob Ray and Tiger Williams and all, they didn't read that. They didn't get that article, I guess, because Wendell Clark, I mean, there's pictures of Wendell Clark ground and pounding guys in fights, right? But, I mean, you did that now, the internet would melt. He broke the code. He broke the code.
We got all Marc-Andre Fleury wants before he retires is to fight again. The refs won't even allow him to do that.
I want someone to grab Jordan Bennington and just kick the shit out of that guy. I wanted Fleury I wanted him to dummy that clown.
Dude, he wants to as well. He wanted to as well. He's been vocal about it, and apparently, so his junior coach is the coach in Columbus right now, and he was interviewed after Fleury, I guess, tied Patrick Waugh's record for wins, and he was saying that like I actually had to like hold Fleury back from fighting in practice and in juniors because like he loves it. He loves it, and so he said he couldn't imagine something more frustrating for him than being held back by the refs in that one because he wants one so bad.
Well, yeah, because he was mic'd up there, right? And he went down to fight Bennington, and they break it. Like, meanwhile, Bennington's running his friggin' lips all fucking game. I've never seen a guy, like my friend would say, he's selling wolf tickets, right? That's all he does. He talks real big when the refs get in there, but, whatever. He stands behind his blocker and his mask. I mean, but there's Fleury coming down, and all the linesmen go crazy, breaking it up or whatever, and you have 18,000 paying fans booing your product.
Yeah.
So that's good. Oh, it's a good thing that you'll hear the announcers. Oh yeah, let's stop that nonsense. No, oh yeah, really? That sounds like the paying crowd really love the fact that they stopped that. Are you shitting me right now? Love these announcers too. Oh, they're not impressing anybody. Meanwhile, they're showing the people on the glass banging. Everyone's standing up. The paying people, that paid their hard-earned money to go and watch it, want to be entertained. But yet, if they boo your product, you break it up. That's good, though. I'm like, who the only people that think that's good? The announcers and the media guys. So all the people that got in for free, they're okay with it, break it up and booing the product and whatever. But the people that actually paid the money, yeah, fuck them. I've never seen a sport that does it more than hockey. It's amazing to me.
It blows my mind too, Darren, that like I've gone to a handful of Wild games. You know how much of a junior hockey fan I am as well, and even on the college level here, where obviously like fighting it's not part of the college hockey culture, but when you are in the rink and you see a scuffle, you see a fight break out, look around, and I encourage everybody here going to the next Wild game. Look around. Is there anybody sitting down with their arms crossed, going, "This sucks"? No. Everyone is on their feet cheering. Every single one. So yeah, you can be a keyboard warrior out there and be critical of it, whatever. You got your freedom of speech. I get it. You got your opinion. I will respect that. But you cannot tell me that the people who are there paying their money are not entertained, are not on their feet, are not cheering when that shit's going down. Yeah,
well, the same clown that's on Twitter, or X, I'm always going to call it Twitter.
Yeah,
but
it's Twitter.
on Twitter, bitching about it, has never paid for a thing.
Yeah.
Streams shit illegally, never pays, never goes to a game, doesn't buy merch, doesn't do anything. But he's the one that's going to complain about everything. Well, I don't really give a shit about your opinion, actually. You don't pay for anything. Whose opinion do I care about? Well, the people that bought a overpriced $400 ticket the dad that took his son to the game that had to you basically pay his whole paycheck, $30 to park. The kid wants the souvenir ice cream cup that's $40 friggin' and everything else.
Dad wants one beer that's like $25.
Yeah, exactly. So he drops about an $800, $900 a night. The kid's got to get a mini stick and the whole deal. If he wants to see Patrick Maroon fight, then let fucking Patrick Maroon fight. Get the fuck out of the way. If Fleury's going to come the length of the ice to fight Binnington, move. Let it happen. Break it up afterwards. I mean, now it's one thing. Oh, he jumped on him and started. Okay, fine. If two guys are, let's go. Get out of the way. Just let them fight. It's mutual combat at that point. The players want it. Who doesn't want this? Fans want it. Players want it. That's why I said about fighting in hockey. Why is there fighting in hockey? Because the players want fighting in hockey. The moment the players don't want fighting in hockey, there won't be fighting in hockey anymore. That's what it comes down to. I don't give a shit what Karen, she doesn't think they should fight. Oh, okay, well, so good for you that you don't want them to fight. Then don't watch it then. But the guys that are actually playing, whose health it's actually affecting, they want it. So let them fucking fight. I
love it, Darren. We're on.
Well, that's what it comes down to. Go on and on about visors and all this shit. Oh, well, they need this, they need that. Well, the players don't want that. I never got the whole... I can remember when there was no visors. So it's and then, there's this big push to wear visors. Why? Well, he's a grown-up. If he doesn't want to wear a visor, why should he have to wear a visor? Well, I think they should. Well, who the fuck are you? You're sitting in the crowd. How does it affect your life? I don't understand that. Oh, you took a stick in the eye. I mean, that's terrible. I don't want to see that. But it didn't affect my life. So I'm not going to tell this guy what to do. If he wants to go play an NHL hockey game without a visor, let him go play without a visor. Who cares? It's just all these people we're listening to the opinions of people that it has no effect on. So why are we listening to them? What do the players want? That's what you do. Because they're the ones that ultimately have to live with the consequences and the decisions. They're all adults. They're all over 18. So let them decide. So I said in junior hockey, you can't fight in junior anymore. In the Western Hockey League, the Western League's okay, but I mean the rest of them.
Quebec League,
but you can drive, you can vote, you can enlist in the army. Yeah, I can go over to Iraq and start bombing people, but God forbid I have a fight at center ice in Quebec because I'm just a kid. It's ridiculous. When you talk about the Quebec League, that they don't allow fighting in the Ontario League. One fight now and you're suspended. Does any player in the Ontario Hockey League be like, yeah, I love that rule? Any of them say that? I doubt it. They're all like, no, this is nonsense. But here we are. Oh, they're just kids. But hey, you can go and enlist and go fight for our country though. But don't fight in Cornwall. Give me a break.
I hear you, and yeah, I've gone off on the Quebec League. Everybody who listens to this podcast knows my thoughts on that. But Quebec's just put it this way: Jiu-jitsu, where you're not even punching anybody, was legalized last year in that province. So they got fucking bigger issues than hockey fights. Let's be perfectly honest. But anyways, let's turn our attention to some minor league talk here. Amesbury...
I was gonna say I've pissed off every one of your listeners. It's you and I who are just talking again by ourselves here.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm just buzzing right now. I love it. But Amesbury's back in the ECHL after his FPHL ban. First of all, what a debut back at the East Coast League. Huge hit in his last game. Good scrap. What the hell happened with the FPHL?
The FPHL, yeah. Well, I think it actually just literally came down to Amesbury's too mean. That's what it came down to.
Really? That's what it was?
Yeah. Well, and it's see, the thing is like I said, for these younger people that are watching him, he's nightmare fuel to them. To me, he's every guy I watched 20 years ago. He's no different than anybody I grew up with and played with and everything else. I mean, but he looks out of place now because no one else does it. So, yeah, he looks like a psycho. He's not. But he's doing shit from the 80s and 90s. So it looks out of place. But, no, I mean, problem was he got suspended for a hit. last year, and he got 12 games, which it was horseshit suspension, but whatever. 12 games, let's get him out of the league for a while, right? Okay. Problem is he hit a kid again here this year, and it felt, if you're suspended multiple times within a calendar year, your suspension doubles or triple, or whatever their goofy rule is. Well, it was 11 months after his last suspension, so they doubled his next one up to 18 or whatever it was.
Geez.
So we got 18 games. And I mean, was the hit dirt? Whatever. I mean, again, if you're not a fan of Danbury, it was the dirtiest hit ever. If you're a fan of Danbury, it was a 2-minute penalty. So fans, you can't really go by what they say. For me, I was a little dirty. The problem is the result of it. The kid ended up having a seizure from the hit, and it looked really bad. So visually, it was bad. And so I understand that. But it's like, well, you got to suspend on the act, not the outcome, But whatever. So visually, it looked bad. So, okay, they gave him 18 games, which Amesbury was, we weren't happy with, but okay, he's fine. Well, 10 games into the suspension, they call a league meeting. Actually, you know what? We're going to ban you from the league. What? Like, you gave me 18 games. I'm 10 games in. I'm sitting here waiting. Now you're banning me all of a sudden? Like, what is going on here? Okay, so now he's banned from the league. So I guess it's like, well, I guess I'll get on the phone here and start making some calls. And Fort Wayne he had a couple, I know he had a bunch of teams get a hold of him, but Fort Wayne got a hold of him first. And they honored the 18-game suspension. I don't know why they bothered, but they did. And anyway, his first game was on Saturday, or was yesterday? Sunday or Saturday. Anyway, Sunday I think was his first game in the East Coast League. And yeah, first shift runs that guy, big clean hit behind the net. And the second shift ends up fighting that captain and kind of laying the beats to him. And it was in Fort Wayne, and Fort Wayne has been around for that organization. Fort Wayne and has been around it's a minor league staple. They've been around for like 60 years. Love their fighters, a history of toughness in that rink. And I have a friend that was actually from Fort Wayne that was at that game, and he said the place was electric, and they were chanting his name. And I mean, and they lost. No one cared. They were all talking about Amesbury, and he's gonna electrify that crowd. And it was. I mean, again, it's the minors, and people can say it's right or wrong or whatever, but at the end of the day, he sells. And they didn't care. They lost 6-2. They were talking about Daniel Amesbury, and they hit in the fight, and he's a showman, and he knows how to do it, and he has a brand, and and it's going to be really interesting here Wednesday, boy, February 7th. It's the Clash of the Titans, the two Ice Wars champions, Ryan Devine for Kansas City that just won Ice Wars 3 against the Ice Wars 1 champ Daniel Amesbury as Fort Wayne goes into Kansas City, and everybody's hyped up for that. And Devine was on a podcast last week told Amesbury, I'm waiting for you. Oh. So he's ready to go. And, Amesbury, he's been sitting out for 2 months, so he's primed and he's ready for it. Oh, yeah, and he's ready for it. So, yeah, we're going to see hopefully, well, I was going to say it's the minors. They better not be a healthy scratch. We'll put it that way. But I don't think either of those teams are that dumb. I think they know what's coming. So, and it's been all over the internet. God knows I've been putting up the graphic of the two of them all over the place. So, yeah, Ryan. So, folks, this is going to be next Monday. It'll be after the fact here, but so hopefully we had the title fight. Well, maybe not the title fight, but the Ice Wars championship match anyway with Devine and Amesbury. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting.
I can't wait. And this is a perfect segue into my next question, because speaking of the minors and leagues where people go there to support their team, but at the end of the day, maybe don't care about the actual outcome if they're entertained. There's a league that a lot of people I don't think know is still kicking it. That is just that, and that's the LNAH. I know we were just kind of shitting on Quebec there, but at least the LNAH lives on in that province, and it's still buzzing. It's still going strong. Honestly, it's like one of my favorite leagues to watch. First of all, how's the league doing, and is it still a destination to go and watch fights and, you know, a hockey game on the side.
Oh, yes, the LNAH, the Quebec League. Ah, for the listeners out there that don't know, if you really want to know how it used to be, go tune into Les Chiefs or go to YouTube and type in the real life Slapshot. It's all about the Laval Chiefs. It's a documentary from 2003. Dudes living in the rink, fighting all the time. Go watch that documentary. You'll love it. Actually, the guy that made that documentary, anyway, he's one of the brothers of one of the players. But yeah, the Chiefs documentary, that'll give you a history lesson of what it used to be like. Well, I mean, I don't even. I love me some LNAH, but I mean they've managed to screw that up too. But the LNAH, they for the longest time, and I mean I'm just not like I was involved in the league and everything else. So I know the ins and outs of the league back in the day. The Hells Angels would launder money through it, so that's where all the money was there. And yeah, I mean you had the mob involved, and there's lots of greasy stories about how these guys were getting paid a fortune. John Morasti making $2,000 a game and shit like that. Link Gates getting paid $1,000 per fight. So yeah, so it was crazy back in the day. But
I didn't even know that. That's news to me. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, there was a couple guys there that if you want to make money on the side, you sold weed and did porn. So there you go, Chucky Boom Boom. But anyway, we'll move away from that. But Patrick Cote collecting for the mob. Oh yeah. But hey, you got to make ends meet somehow. But you can't play every day. But yeah, so there was money going through there, but they were money hand over fist, and guys were getting paid in envelopes, and half on the books and half in cash. What is it? Straight cash, homie. But but they were losing money, and then once it got cleaned up and they got the bikers and stuff kind of got out of it. Reality set in for some of these owners. And it's like, I always say it was like the episode of The Simpsons with the slow pitch when they bring in the ringers. And it's my power plant, Mr. Burns' power plant versus the other power plant. And it's the two rich owners doing battle. Well, that's what the Quebec League was, literally. Rich owner versus rich owner. And I'm going to beat you up on the ice, and then I'm going to beat you on the game, too. So, and they brought in, and I mean, everyone would see the videos of all the fights and the brawls and all the craziness. But there was a little black thing rolling around out there that you had to, and when it came down, you still had to play 60 minutes of hockey, and the hockey was really good, and they had really good players. And what would happen is a lot of the local French guys would come home from Europe and stuff, and they'd come back to Quebec and, get a real job and whatever, but play at night and make $1,500, $2,000 a game. And so you had guys that were like, whatever, KHL level or Swedish Elite League level players, but they came home, and we're now playing in Quebec. So you'd have your 2.5 lines that would play, and then you'd have 2 lines of, okay, now it's time to rumble. And yeah, so, they sold the rinks out. They were playing it when the strike was on. They were playing in the La Colisée where the Nordiques used to play. They were getting 14,000 people in there to watch an LNAH game. So I love these people. Oh, it's a beer league. Yeah, no, it's not a beer league. Stop with that shit. It's about East Coast League level talent, but the toughest league in the world when it came to fighting. So now, fast forward to.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, well, so what happened is of course, like anything, we're gonna have to legitimize this. Okay, so everyone's selling burgers, so you're gonna open up a burger stand. Yeah, good call. So now you have to be. What happened is they've made a rule now that you have to be from Quebec, born in Quebec, to play in the league. Or you have had to have played in the Quebec Junior League or the Maritime League, Junior A. So if you played in the Quebec League or the Maritime League, you can play. So that's why there's no one from the West anymore. If you played in the WHL, you can't play. That's why didn't Amesbury go to the LNAH? Well, yeah, he would have, but he never played in Quebec, and he's not from Quebec. He's from BC, so he can't play in that league.
Ridiculous, man. Because, the WHL, even today, is still producing, in today's day and age, too, the toughest guys. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, so that's why now the only guys that they really have fighting, or you were grandfathered in. So like Curtis Swanson could come back and play because he played back in the day, and Derek Parker, who at 300 pounds comes off the train from CN and still fights every night, which is crazy. But I mean, at 43 years old. But it's like, he played in the league before, so they let him in. But that's the only guys that are really fighting. I mean, and there's some local guys, but it's like, they're the tough guys. They're the guys that are all at the gym and bounce locally, and we'll kind of teach them to skate, and they'll be the sideshow, and which is fine. I mean, mad respect for anybody that goes out and drops the gloves, but gone are the days of like, yeah, as much as it was a circus back in the day and Joel Terrio and Patrick Cote and all those guys played in the American League, NHL, like they played in high North American minor leagues, played major junior hockey. Like these guys are straight up real legit hockey playing enforcers, not just a local tough guy that we taught how, like the Doug Glatt. Like they literally, Doug Glatt, that whole scene when he's playing in Goon, when he first learns to skate and all that, they stole that whole idea from the Quebec League. That's exactly what that league was, right? And they have a bunch of Doug Glatts in that league now. So, I mean, okay, yeah, they'll fight. The fights aren't as good. It ain't Bosse and Morasti, that's for sure. But, you know, the guys are still out there swinging, but it's a lot more limited now in the quality of fighter because they've closed it off. But I will say, last week he came back out of retirement. Brett Gallant is playing for Laval. And Brett Gallant is going to fuck somebody up bad in that league if someone decides to fight him. His first game, he goes, he hadn't been on skates for the entire season yet, right? Because he had been retired sitting at home. He goes, so I just was kind of getting my legs. But if he comes back, I know he's coming back this weekend to play a couple games. And actually, one of the games is, of all things, is against 51-year-old Donald Brashear, plays for Marquis. And that's who Gallant's going to play. And I don't know if Brashear will fight him, but maybe. But they also have Patrick Bordelot on that team. And, you know, there's a couple tough guys in that team. So Gallant might get in one here. And that might be something. Because I don't know, even in my mind right now, you let Gallant get on his skates for a couple weeks. To me, he's still the toughest guy in hockey. And I'm talking about the NHL. I'm talking about every league. Brett Gallant's the toughest guy in hockey. So he's going to mess someone up in that LNAH, you know. So it'll be interesting now, but because he played in the Quebec League, the Quebec Junior League back in the day, that's how he was able to play. So they've really limited themselves with the toughness that they can bring in. I have no idea why they did that stupid import rule, or they don't have an import rule. I don't know why. I don't know what they're doing. They want to make it completely Quebec, and
That's so fucking Quebec of them to do, right?
Well, and I don't know why, but you go and look, and it's like, yeah, they kind of still draw, but nothing like it used to be. But granted, the payroll isn't what it used to be.
Right.
I mean, I know Gallant's getting pretty decent cash, and a couple of those guys, and I'm sure Brashear's not playing for $50 and a ham sandwich. I mean, I'm sure he's making a couple bucks, but it's like, yeah, I know Bordelot is making some good money, but other than that, like the other guys aren't really making anything. And they did have to rein this. Well, I mean, the Laval Chiefs, the one year had $1 million payroll. So it's like, okay, I understand you have to reel it in, but at the same time, and especially now, it's so hard to find guys that'll fight at anywhere. Now you're going to limit yourself even more by just saying it's got to be Quebec or Maritime only. It's like, come on, you guys, you know, like, so. But that's where they are with the LNAH. But that's the one thing I will say with the LNAH. That league could probably only work in Quebec. You know, the French folks they're a little off center to begin with. They can get down with that stuff. The old if you all go watch the Chiefs documentary, you guys will know. You'll understand what I'm talking about. But I'm telling you, man, from about 02 to 09, that was the friggin' greatest hockey in the world, man. I love that league. I was so into that league, and it was awesome. Yeah, and there were some wars, man. Oh, yeah.
I can't wait to watch that documentary because I actually haven't seen that one. So I know the story about the Chiefs. I haven't seen that documentary though, so I'm actually excited for that one as well. And I encourage, like Darren, all of our listeners to go check it out as well. Last thing is you covered Gallant. That was my next question: was how excited are you to see Gallant back in the LNAH, but back playing hockey? Because I mean, yeah, tough motherfucker. Put up over 250 penalty minutes in the AHL alone. Played 4 games in the big show. So like you said, like he is a pro hockey player, but just a tough son of a bitch. I just wanted to also I know you talked about Brashear a little bit too, but Donald Brashear, 51 years old, and he's still scrapping in that league. So like props to him, man. That's absolutely insane. So like there's a love for the game. There's also a love for that style of the game too, because I mean, he's made enough money throughout his career. He doesn't have to keep doing this, yet he's still out there putting on a show for the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't obviously, 51. He still looks good though, good shape. Actually, he just fought like an MMA fight like 2 or 3 years ago, in the local Quebec, that TKO promotion or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, dude, TKO's actually good promotion.
Yeah, he was in it. I think he fought. I know he fought. I saw the picture of him standing in the cage.
Oh yeah, dude, he's on fucking Tapology. That's insane.
Yeah.
And he beat the guy in the first round too. Let's go. Knocked him out. That's amazing.
So, that dressing room was like, okay, we'll give you an extra 50. You got to keep it standing up. That was talked about for sure. Morasti still tells the story when he fought that TKO event versus Joe Blow. The agreement was they were supposed to stand up and trade. Well, what does the guy do immediately? Oh, double leg take. Oh, yeah, that was the end of Morasti, right? Yeah, it was like, yeah, oh, you dummy. Work with me here. Come on. Brashear, good shape and stuff. He'll fight now and again, the old Quebec. Well, speaking of the Gallants, of course, Alex Gallant playing in Calgary there in the American Hockey League just picked up his 1,000th American League penalty minute. And,
with the Rangers, he's crushing it.
Oh, yeah. And that guy just hammers dudes, man. Him and Jake Doty, go watch those fights. Oof. Yeah, and there's a couple of guys in the American League. Travis Howes looked really good. Jake Doty. Gallant, Dylan McElrath still down there. So there's still some tough dudes, floating around the American League. Gertson's down there. So there's still some hope. But it's for this old fart. Yeah, I'm looking over at my shelf here at all my DVDs, and the days gone by, the 80s and 90s. I'm stuck in the past, I guess. But so I always find it. I guess I just find it amusing when I'm online now, and people are, oh, he's a goon. Oh yeah, sure. He's called Tuesday, man. Goon. You've never seen a goon before. If you saw a game in the 80s, you'd cry. Like if you literally watched an LNAH game in 2004, that'd be like nightmare fuel for these people. So no, Patrick Maroon is not a goon. Stop. Delorier's so mean. Oh, okay. I mean, I like Delorier, but come on. No, he's not. I always laugh, though. You ever notice when something happens? Like, oh, he just grabbed him and did that for no reason. Oh, no reason. Like, the ass kicking just fell out of the sky, did it? Like, nothing happened leading up to that. He just decided to snap. Yeah, sure.
No words were said at all. Nothing.
Yeah, no, nothing happened. Like, yeah, no, he didn't spear me in the nuts in the scrum 2 periods ago. No, that didn't happen.
Or something happened in the commercial break. You didn't see that, right?
Exactly. So I always hate this. All that fight, that was staged. That fight didn't mean anything. Fuck, it meant something for the 2 guys that were getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
What do you mean it didn't mean anything? How do you know? Well, because the announcer said it. Well, how would he know? He's sitting up in the press box. How does he know not what was said between, or that this guy's been acting like a clown for the last 3 times we played him? He's been acting like a goof. Well, now I'm finally out here with him, and I'm going to get him. Oh, it was staged. Oh, yeah. No, sometimes it was. At the end of the day, we'll go back to the paying cut. Is anybody upset by this? Is the staged fight really bothering the 18,000 people that are cheering right now? Mm-hmm. They didn't seem too offended. So it was staged. Whatever. Oh, that's what I always say with these do-gooders. You're going to still get your 60 minutes of hockey. Doesn't matter how many times they fight, they stop the clock. Don't worry about it. They'll pick all this shit up and get the goofs off, and you'll still get your 60 minutes of hockey. It's fine. Calm down. God.
Man, when Ryan Hartman goes after Evander Kane, the ECHL Energy Center erupts. So everyone calm down. Darren, you're keeping old-time hockey alive, man, and it's an absolute pleasure to always connect with you.
Are we done now?
I think we're done. We've gone an hour here. We've talked, off air for like 2 hours. I think the fans listening got their old time hockey fix. They got some homework, so we'll bring you back on soon, and and I got some homework to do as well. And we'll talk a little bit more as we get towards the end of the season here. We'll sum up some of the rest of the big stories coming up, and hopefully, knock on wood, we have some more news coming out of the new
Major League Hockey fights and Ice Wars. Well, here, folks, I'm going to give you your homework here. Okay, you got the Chiefs documentary to watch, but there's another one it's called straight up. It's called Tough Guys, and it's a documentary that was made in the late '90s, and they follow the minor league. They follow Kevin Holliday and Curtis Voth around, and the director of that was actually Mike Clattenburg, who created the Trailer Park Boys. That's his documentary that he made before the Trailer Park Boys, and it's called Tough Guys, and it's all about hockey and the minors down in the South. Go watch it. It's on YouTube too. Go watch that one.
It's excellent. That one's awesome.
It is very good. And the Chiefs documentary, you watch those two, you'll know what I'm talking about. The Chiefs documentary is wild, man. And none of that shit set up. Those dudes legitimately lived in the rink, and the rink is across the street from the insane asylum. So that's true. In Laval, the rink's called the House of Pain, and crazy shit back in the day, man.
Dude, I absolutely love it. Like I said, it's an absolute pleasure to catch up. It's an honor to have you on the podcast, sir. What do you got coming up next on your podcast, and where can all the listeners find you?
Yeah, on the Hockey Podcast Network, the Fourth Line Voice, on the iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite shows. Yeah, I mean, do 2 shows a week, Wednesday and Sunday. Yeah, coming up. I just had Richard Peacock on, former tough guy in the Western Hockey League. He's got some crazy stories. Talks about Link Gates holding a midget out of the window. That's what got him kicked off the team. You might want to tune in to listen to that. So we got lots of stuff.
That's a tease, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, and it's but I, and if you the back catalog, I've had John Morasti on, and Dean Mayrad and all those guys, all the tough guys. I'm planning on actually having John on again and kind of getting an update. And then Terry Ryan, I want to get him back on the show just to talk about Shoresy and how that saga has gone on. And they just finished season 3 of Shoresy filming, and it's been blowing up, and people are loving that. And how they got involved in the show, and then of course. Terry Ryan coming back and playing. We didn't even talk about that. 47 years old playing in the East Coast League.
I can't believe I didn't even. Honestly, it's because I brought it up on the last podcast.
Yeah. And fighting and dropping the gloves.
What a legend, man! And Terry's the easiest interview to prepare for because all you need is one question. Boom, an hour goes by.
Oh yeah, I mean I thought I was long-winded. Holy shit! Fuck, you listen to me. I'm the Coles notes compared to Terry Ryan. But so you just let him go. So yeah, I'm gonna get him on, get Morasti on. We're gonna talk Shoresy and fighting and all that stuff. So there's always something going on. I'll be yelling at the clouds about something. I gotta get you on the show.
Yeah, hey,
we'll do the reverse here. We'll sync both of our ratings.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I said, tell you, dude, we're so low right now. We're reaching up to touch bottom with your guests today. I don't know.
Hey, I'll tag me in then. Tag me in. I'll be your fourth line voice.
There you go. Well, I'm going to talk to you about some. We'll alternate a bit. I'm going to get some MMA. I'm going to get some MMA stories from you on the show.
Oh hell yeah! I'll let you know what's going on in ACA in Russia right now with that fucking crazy ass Kadyrov running that shit.
I was gonna say there's got to be like a Link Gates of the MMA world somewhere.
Oh dude, yeah, I'm already taking notes. I'll come prepared for sure. But man, appreciate you. Like I said, it's an absolute pleasure to catch up and have you on the podcast, guys. Go check out his catalog on YouTube as well. It's the biggest catalog out there. Hockey Fights has nothing on
fuck those guys.
Voice. Man, thank you so much for this.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. And like I always said, Isha, without you, there would be no Fourth Line Voice podcast. So I always appreciate what you've done for me, and anything I could ever do for you, and you just let me know. No problem. Big
shout out again to Darren at the Fourth Line Voice podcast. I mean, you guys just saw how excited I was to be hanging out and talking with him again. A good friend of mine, worked on his podcast back in the day now, over 4 years ago. And we stayed in touch ever since. I mean, keeping old-time hockey alive, ladies and gentlemen. I know our boy Judd Zolgad is swooning as he's listening to that one, as was I, listening to the great stories that Darren shared. And we talk like 3 hours before and after the pod too, just hanging out, reminiscing, and sharing some hockey stories. So big shout out to Darren. I hope you guys enjoyed that. A little something different. I know, a little something different. We'll get back into the news and happenings leading up to trade deadline in the National Hockey League next week. But for all you guys who listen, for all you guys who support, I really appreciate you. Every single one of you. Video side, audio side. On the audio side, please rate and review the show if you can. 5 stars, any review. It just helps us get in front of more listeners. Go check us out on social media at Sota Pod on Twitter, at the Sota Pod everywhere else. Check us out on YouTube, like and subscribe. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, guys. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button. And like I said, subscribe to the channel. Daily clips on the channel, as well as live streams every Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Central. Be part of the Judd's Buds show. Again, MNCAA back early this week. Sota Pod late, but back this week. Judd's Buds audio on Friday and stream on Wednesday, guys. Hockey doesn't stop here. Hockey doesn't stop. Football's over, but hockey doesn't stop. So appreciate all of you for listening. Appreciate Darren. Signing off. I'm Isha Jerome, alongside my friend Darren at the Fourth Line Voice podcast. This has been the Sota Pod, presented by Better Edge, 7th Avenue Pizza, Northland Vodka, and our friends at Waggle Golf. Don't fear, just drink some beer and stay wild.